Hello and welcome back to another video. I'm Zelp, and today we are going to talk about the spreadsheet again, but there's a lot of improvement has been done. The things that we talked about in the last video has already been implemented, and all the automated things that I want to do has also been done. Okay, so over here, this is the spreadsheet. We have currently 5 tabs, one for attack speed calculation, another one for critical multiplier calculation, another one for the viral table, and it has been extended tremendously. Like right now it goes all the way to 100%, and if you come over down here it goes all the way to I think 900 over hits if you really want to scroll all the way down, but I'm not going to do that. And yeah, basically we have a lot more data that we can use to come up with our answer. You'll also realize if you scroll to your right, you'll see that there's a lot more information over here, which all helps in automating the entire spreadsheet. So the range that is given over here, let me zoom back in real quick. The range that is given over here is all taken from codes like what is the upper limit and what's the lower limit, and then use them to find the range, followed by the total number of hits, the status chance, and everything else to give you the viral multiplier. And this is the average viral multiplier. If you go all the way to the right side, you also see things like how many hits can you do within 6 seconds. So this will actually tell you the limit, the thing that we were talking about in the last video, the limit of your maximum viral multiplier which it can reach. And in this case it's 228%, and you have to remove its original, which is 100%, so therefore it's only an increment of 128%. But these values you don't really need to know because everything is already changed and calculated over here. So you can see there's 101.28, which is 128% extra. So this is the maximum viral status multiplier that I can give you. And finally, we also have the background coding, I call it, which is just things that help me identify certain numbers as certain letters. So for example, if I want to know if 11% of status in viral, what column is that in, is going to be under L. So if I come over here and let's say I look for 11% right over here, you can see that it's under the column of L, and this will help with getting the range as well. Now, one thing that I misunderstood was that if you want to get information from one cell and put it to the other side, it's actually really easy. All you have to do is just click on the cell, you put equal, and then you click whatever tab that you want and click that value, and it's going to come over here. So the whole reason of using indirect was never to just move things around like I did before. Which is also the reason why I changed all the indirect functions that I used in the last video to just normal pulling the values over. The reason why is because if I were to add a column here, everything is going to go off course and all the values are going to get messed up. But it won't get messed up if I take where the position of that value is. So when you add a column, that position moves and it will follow to move. Now indirect is good because you can actually register things like certain strings into the formula. Like you can't type sum and then type this value in without knowing what that value is going to be, because in this case the n1 will always be changing. This is my n1 over here, and this value is always changing. So by using indirect, I have the ability to make the range constantly changing as we go through different status chance and also attack speed. The color code goes like this. Anything that is orange, you fill it up. Anything that is blue is just information that you don't really need to take into account because most of the time it's already either or it's not that important for you and you don't really use it anywhere else. The greens are the one that is more useful information, and followed by the pinkish colors are things that are given to you from a different spreadsheet. So all these values is being calculated in these different spreadsheets, right? And then these values are also being calculated from another spreadsheet. Okay, so over here we have the base stats of your weapon. So let's say it has 3 fire rate, which means that 3 shots per second. Then reload speed, magazine size, critical chance, critical damage. And then these are the mods that you can put on to increase the fire rate and things like that. So let's say you have 60% increase, it can be a 30% increase for reload, it can be 100% increase on the magazine size, 120% on critical chance, 90% on the critical damage. It's really up to you and the kind of mod that you put in, right? So after you have all just these two boxes filled up, it should be able to generate your attack speed multiplier and also your critical multiplier. Now there's one flaw with this current spreadsheet is that it can only be worked on primary and secondary weapon. You cannot actually use it for melee weapons, and technically if you know enough of the coding you can. All you have to do is just override this value and just put in the attack speed of your melee weapon, or rather the mods that you put into your melee weapon. But because right now everything is kind of interlinked and I don't want to mess it up, because by changing the fire rate I'll actually change the outcome of the maximum multiplier for viral and all kinds of other things, and it's just going to make everything really messed up. So one example is that if my weapon, which is a melee weapon which does not have magazine size, and if I put this into 0, you'll see a lot of divide by 0 error, and that doesn't make sense. So right now currently it only works on primary and secondary weapons, guns basically. But when it comes to melee attack speed multiplier, it's really just as simple as increasing it based on the mods. Now let's talk about the last and important yet confusing part, which no one that I've known have ever done before. This is something that I've been working on for days, which is the viral status. Now viral status multiplier is something really hard to find because it changes the more hits you do, right? And because viral also has a expiry after 6 seconds, so there is a cap on how many procs or how much multiplier you can actually reach. So as an example, if you have really low fire rate and really low status chance, if I give you a lot of time, you cannot hit the cap of viral, which is an extra 325%. So what we need to do here is we need to identify the cap. What is the maximum multiplier that is possible on average for this particular weapon? So this is where the fire rate is taken into account. And this too is not the fire rate that we'll be using. We're actually going to use the fire rate with the mods that you already have. And this is the average fire rate, which means that it also factors in things like reload speed, etc. So this value, this 4.4, is taken over from here under the attack speed multiplier calculator, and it's under this hits per second. From using that value, we know that after 6 seconds, how many hits we can do. And based on how many hits we can do after 6 seconds, we can come up with a maximum multiplier that it can reach. So over here you can see that I actually wrote here hits in 6 seconds, you only can reach up to 26 hit. Now all these value needs to be run down because there's no real meaning if I say, oh, in 6 seconds you can hit 26.5. What's the 0.5 gonna do for you? So it has to be run down. So over here you see round, oh sorry, did I say run down? I mean round down, and therefore you get 26 hits. And then from here we know that the average or the maximum multiplier you can reach is only up to 128%. So this is how you can see over here that you get the maximum multiplier as 1.28. Now the other challenge with status is that normally you're not going to rock with a weapon that only has that status. So the status chance that's displayed on the weapon does not reflect what your status actually does, because depending on the number of damage types that you have, it's going to move around the weight of the attack. In this case, we have a weapon that has a status chance of 20% and it only has viral. So therefore viral has a 20% chance of proccing. But if you have, let's say, impact as well, and the impact damage is also 100, then it's going to be 50-50. So the chances of proccing viral is actually now just 10%. So that's another challenge that we have to know about and we need to address before using this calculator. Therefore, we have this way, status way part, which you need to fill up as well, depending on your weapon. What's the impact, puncher, slash? If it's 0, just put it at 0. Any other elements, just fill it in. And because this is mainly for viral, that's why there's a special allocation for viral over here. And then based off this value over here, the proc chance of this one, then we can use this particular proc chance to calculate our viral multiplier. And this one will be pulled over to this box, which is your status chance. And now you have a choice how you want to compare it. Because again, if you think about it, viral increase in damage the longer you keep proccing or the more hits that you keep proccing. So therefore, there are two choices that you can do. You can either put in the number of hits that you want to measure with. So let's say in this case I have 10. So by putting 10, we know that you can finish or shoot 10 hits in roughly 2.2 seconds. And in this 10 hits, the multiplier or average multiplier that you can get is roughly 0.45%. Okay, now let's say you want to calculate based on time, so you don't care about the number of hits. You do need to remove this value. Okay, it's actually stated over here, only fill in either the time or the number of hits, not both. So you have to remove one of it, and then the other one you put in. So let's say you want to know what is your status after 3 seconds, or the viral status multiplier. So by putting in 3 seconds, it will calculate the number of hits that it will do in 3 seconds, which is a total of 13.3. So the way you get this 13.3 is really just take the time taken and the average fire rate that you do, and you'll get this 13.3. So with this amount of hits, you can go into the viral table and look for the range for 13 hits, right? So 13 hits is like this, and then I believe it's like 10%. So it's here to somewhere here, and then based on this range, you'll add it up together and then find the average damage that you do and come up with the average viral multiplier. And therefore you will get that is 0.58. Now at this point, you also calculated the maximum multiplier that you can reach, which is 0.9. So what happens is that if, let's say I put in the time, which is more than 6 seconds, which in our last video we talked about that for every extra second, like the 7th second, you actually lose the end first second of the procs. So technically it's already capped at within that 6 seconds. So let's say if I were to find out after 8 seconds, you'll find that after 8 seconds, the viral status, it's 0.90, which is at the cap. If I put here 9 seconds, it is still at the cap. It cannot go any higher because it's capped. And previously we do not have this formula in, so we cannot do it that way, but right now we can. So the longer you shoot, it really doesn't give you any extra benefit with viral, because you can't actually go above that 6 seconds to give you even more, because the decay is greater than the fact that you are proccing viral, right? So the way this formula works is really very simple. If the value that you get from the table, the multiplier, is less than the cap, then you use that value. Otherwise, we use the cap. That is all. Using all of these values, you can come up with a total. This is the total multiplier that you want to compare with other builds. So if you have a different build that you put in different mods here, or you have different allocation of your elements, just put all these values in and then you can compare. So the only troublesome thing that I feel like there is that you have to find a number of hits or the time that you need per enemy to use it for your comparison. And this is something that I feel like I cannot avoid. I've tried multiple times and thought of it for many episodes of this whole calculator thing, and I feel like it's just something that you have to either decide for yourself. If you feel like nobody's gonna shoot for longer than 5 seconds on an average enemy, then you can try putting here as a 5 and do your calculation and see how does viral actually benefit you most within 5 seconds. At this point, I feel like making calculator spreadsheet thing is not really that appealing to the majority of Warframe players, because not only did we have a lot of videos about this, and although none of them is actually repeating, like we don't really do similar things in each video, but then because there's always certain flaws that we see and then we want to improve, and therefore we have so many different sections. Sometimes we fail, sometimes I want to explain how it works. But my point is that I am still going to continue, and I'm going to continue for another 2 more points. One is to find out how to get a more corrosive status multiplier, and then another one is for a general DOT multiplier for all the other DOTs, because I feel like the way you calculate it is probably going to be the same. It's just that the amount changes. So I'm not even doing it for the views anymore. It's really just for the sake of completing this thing, and I feel like I'm kind of enjoying it as well because it's somewhat interesting. If someone were to ask me a question like, should I go viral or should I go corrosive, for example, I could like ask them what weapon they're using, what mods they're using, run it through the simulation, and can just straight away tell them that, oh, you should definitely go for viral. And I feel like that is something so cool that no one else can probably do. So that's why I still kind of want to finish this. Hopefully we can finish it in another 2 or 3 episodes. One for corrosive, another one for the general DOT. I feel like in between there might be some hiccups, so we'll see how that goes. Now for the contest that we announced, it's really, now that I think about it, it's not that easy. My question was that, can you create a formula to come up with a multiplier for DOT or corrosive? And sadly there's no submissions, so there's no winners. So that is going to be the end of the contest. I'll have to think of another one, maybe make it even easier. Okay, so that is all for this video. I'll put the link for this spreadsheet down at the comments. Click on it and play with it if you want to. I have to go right now because I'm really late. I still have to render, edit, and also upload it before 12, which I don't think I have enough time, so this might come out a little bit late. If you look down at the right corner, you can actually see the timestamp. I'll see you guys tomorrow. Bye bye.